What's that? That's well, yes, she is. What's that?
I like it. That's good. Yeah.
So how many this one's
Super Mario Brothers Creed. You got a bunch of stuff today. In mail? I emailed 1,717 colleges back years. So we're gonna get flooded. Good.
No, it was not. Yeah.
Got lots of ones. Tenant on mail.
Yeah, that
Information. Right out of that share. We'll be good. Set to learn much before.
Oh, Diane, Christy says she needs the Zoom link email to her. You haven't seen anything? Just text me.
I didn't see her now. I didn't see her now.
Tell her she can come in with the attending link. She come in the public.
She can come in public.
And then you can talk to me. You're horrible.
Diane.
Yeah.
Oh, now? What's that?
Okay, thank you.
I saw that first. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Go to transit.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are we broadcasting ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. So it is 6:06. My apologies. Our executive session ran just a little bit long over there. I will call us to order for this regular business meeting, May 9th, 2022. If you would let me know you're here. I'll do roll call first. Bill?
Here.
Richard? Here. Christy?
Here.
Ricardo?
Here.
Heidi?
Here.
Crystal? Okay. Chair's here. If you join me for flag salute, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is agenda consideration. I would take a motion to approve this as presented.
Move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing then we'll move to the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. Christy?
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Chair votes for. Our agenda is as presented. Moving along to public comments. Is anybody else not signed up that wants to speak beyond this list here? Just give them an opportunity because we have a big crowd here. Okay, so with that, I was asked to let Kendall go first. So
She has a soccer game.
welcome to the board meeting.
Hi,
Hi.
you can go right now. You can just talk, you just have to talk loud enough for everybody in the back to hear, okay? We're a little nervous.
Hi, my name is Kendall Canoa. I am a first grade student at North Marion Primary School. I take ballet classes and I play softball and I play the violin. My parents say my schoolwork is always first before my activities because I have to earn them. I live in a 4-generation home. My great granny is 87 years old. Granny tells me my education is something nobody can take away from me. I like that in my house, I have a lot of love and support. My teacher is Miss Aiken. She is amazing. She's the best teacher I could ever ask for. I have a lot of love and support in my classroom because of Miss Aiken. She is always there when I need her. I love to read. I get the opportunity to be in a special reading group with Miss Freeman. Miss Freeman is the best reading teacher I could ever ask for. She makes reading really fun. Not all of my classmates get to be in a reading group. We all learn differently. And I am thankful to be able to do this. When I went to a community meeting with my mom, I saw a chart and I asked her to explain it to me. She did. If we have 100 teachers and we take away 60 teachers, that only leaves 40 teachers. If we only have 40 of the teachers next year, that makes me really sad. How are my classmates going to feel loved and supported? My parents say that no matter how old you are, you never stop learning. Some of the staff at my school want to continue their education at this meeting. I heard they did not earn enough money to do this. They won't get paid back for their continuing education. If my teachers want to learn and become better teachers, then we should support them. They should make enough money to be able to do this. I don't want our school community to be only be 40 teachers. Our teachers work hard and they
I'm sorry, it's my writing. Encourage.
encourage me to work hard. I deserve a good education, and so do my classmates. I hope everyone can come together and make it happen. Thank you very much for your time.
You can say it.
I have to go to my softball game.
You say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lindsay Mendes.
Start whenever I'm ready.
Yes, go ahead.
Dear board members, hi, my name is Lindsay Mendez, and I am a second grade teacher at the primary school. I've been a teacher here for the past 4 years. I'm also a parent of a 4th grader. I have fallen in love with the North Marion School District and its community since becoming a parent and then later a teacher. It was disappointing and frustrating that you were unable to or unwilling to attend desserts and discussions. Here is some of what I planned to read that night. I've been a teacher for 9 years in 3 districts. North Marion is now the community where I live, and I hope to be here many years. I have stayed through a maternity leave, distance learning, comprehensive distance learning, hybrid, and in-person with COVID protocols. This could have been miserable, but my amazing colleagues carried me through. I'm beginning to wonder if these colleagues are planning to leave. My 4th grade daughter has anxiety. It is important to place her each year with a good fit teacher. I've always been successful in my pursuits. For this upcoming year, it was difficult, and my request was for a returning teacher. Simply listening to any national or local news or even reading on Facebook, it is apparent that there is a teacher shortage nationwide. Teachers are fleeing the profession, some even mid-year. It terrifies me that currently our nation is facing a teacher shortage and our local pool is scarce. What terrifies me more is that it feels as though our school district is not taking the shortage of teachers seriously. I've only been a member of this community for 4 years as a teacher. I should still be considered new, but I am not. I am considered a veteran teacher in the primary building. Even in previous years, our turnover rate was high. But current data shows at least 60% of North Marion teachers are considering new careers or new districts, so turnover could be astronomical next year. Along with the worries I shared, I have some questions for you. What are your plans to retain your current staff? What are your plans to recruit new teachers to our small district? And what are your plans if we are unable to fill positions next year due to high staff turnover? I love this district. I want to stay in this district. I want my children to attend this district. I also need to take care of myself and my family. I am at a crossroads. I ask you today, what are you going to do to save teachers like me, the teachers who want to stay but feel that they have to leave? Thank you for your time and your commitment to our district.
Paige Janella.
Hello. Most of you know me. I'm Paige Janella, and I am the K-5 literacy coach at the primary and intermediate school. And I am here to challenge the board to come to our schools, to talk to our teachers, to see what is going on. We are in crisis mode. Our children, we are failing our children. The amount of children that are in the bottom 20% norm of the nation is about maybe 50% in our school. We have about 5 to 8% of our kids in the top 20%. This is not new. This is not due to COVID. Historically, North Marion is running about maybe 2/3 of our kids, 67% of our kids below grade level. This is not right. And as the literacy coach, it is my job to provide trainings to our new teachers, to help support our teachers, so they can help our children learn and gain. When we have constant turnover, it's hard. It's hard for me to support all those teachers. A new teacher is not the same as a veteran teacher. It takes several years to learn your curriculum, to learn what strategies work, and to help our kids make better academic gains. So I am really sad. This is not about the teachers. This is about our kids. We are failing our kids. I don't think you have any idea what it is like in our school right now. I was very disappointed that you couldn't come to our discussion, our desserts and our discussion. I know there's negotiations going on, but it's your duty. You are hired or elected by our community. You are failing our community and our kids by not knowing what's going on. We are falling apart. And I invite you, I challenge you to get in the schools, to talk to the teachers, the people that are working with the kids every day, and see what is going on. I think you will be very surprised. It's very disappointing. I live in this district. This is my home district. I want it to be better here. And I tell my children, don't let my grandkids go to this school. That is sad. We can do better and we need to do better. And it starts with recruiting good teachers, retaining good teachers. It is ridiculous. It's embarrassing where we're at on the pay scale. There is no need for that. We need to look at our budget and figure out where we can cut. Don't blame it on the teachers. Don't make the class size bigger. Look and see how we can pay our teachers a fair wage. I challenge you. It's important. It is our future. I might act angry. I am angry. So please take it seriously. All of these people are here because they care about our kids. That's all.
Hope, Jessel.
Thank you for hearing me tonight. My mother-in-law, well, my granddaughter, Ava, is a fourth generation North Marion student. My mother-in-law graduated in 1954. I graduated in 83. My kids graduated in 2004 and 2005, and Ava will graduate in 2030. When I attended high school, I had some of the same teachers that my mother-in-law had. When my kids attended school, grade school, middle school, and high school, they also had same teachers that I had. When Ava went to, as Ava's going to school, I just talked to Katie and she thinks there's probably 5, 10 or more teachers that Ava has or will have that my kids had. This is a community where people stay. I work at Oregon Turf and my boss went here, as well as most of my coworkers. So this is a community where people stay. And after hearing from teachers and knowing the past history with teachers when I was in school and my kids, teachers want to stay here too. But I'm afraid that this is not going to be the case if our teachers aren't supported. We need to support our teachers with a salary that they can support their families. We all know about inflation that's rising, gas prices, grocery store, all that stuff's going up, not just for other people, but for teachers too. And if they can't afford to work in this district, they're not going to stay. And just like Paige said, we need teachers with experience. And I'd also want to know what can you do and what are you willing to do to retain the current staff that we have? And as teachers are leaving, I didn't make that last dessert, but I did hear how many teachers raised their hands that they were considering leaving this district. That is a frightening thought, that this school could be filled with first-year teachers. I have nothing against first-year teachers, they're great, but we have kids that need experience. And if they leave, what are your plans to fill all those positions if we don't have a wage that is going to attract teachers? So I just hope that you take this seriously, that you will help move the negotiations along. I think it's embarrassing that the teachers have gone this long without a contract. So please take into consideration what everyone's saying. Please take it seriously. This is a small district and we need to support our teachers.
Ian Coleman.
Hello. I have my multiplication tables on the back of my paper. So I'm Anne. I'm new to the district. This is my 5th year of teaching. I'm single. I shared my story. That's not wrong. I'm a single income person. I shared my story at the desserts and discussions, and it got pretty emotional hearing everyone's stories, and I was bummed that I couldn't share my story with you. So here I am again. So I'm new to the district. This is my 5th year of teaching. When I first got my intent to stay letter, I had to use it as proof of finding housing, but I couldn't use that letter. So I had to use my income from my last job. And as a single income renter, I need to prove that I make 2.5 times what rent is. And I do not make that in most cases of housing in this area. So I need a cosigner for housing. I'm an educated person and I need someone to co-sign for me. It's embarrassing. You might say, Annie, that's a housing problem, the market, the economy, everything going on. It's a North Marion pay problem. When we put so much to invest in our community and these kids daily, right now, why can't you invest in us? Thank you.
Dave Pommier.
Sorry for being late. I-5 southbound was not my friend. I'm Dave Pommier. I've taught at North Marion for a long time. And I hear how North Marion wants to be a destination school. And that's great. I support that. I think there's a lot of greatness about North Marion. I live in Portland. I choose to drive to North Marion every day. But if we're going to be a destination school, there's things we have to fix. And retaining good staff is critical. And I want to run some numbers by you. This is what I deal with each and every year. Talking about our math diagnostic. The incoming 6th graders, there was 10 6th graders at level. 33 students were at the 5th grade level. 34 students at the 4th grade level. 23 students at the 3rd grade level. 18 students at the 2nd grade level. 6 students tested at the 1st grade level. And 1 student tested at a kindergarten level. The good news is we're back in session. Those numbers have increased. Not well, but they have increased. Some more numbers for you. I teach 6 periods a day. In one period, I have 7 students. 1 is on an IEP. 3 are ELL students. And I have a one-on-one aide that often comes with a student that is of special needs. Another class, I have 26 students. 11 of them are on IEP or 504s. 2 of them are identified as ELL students, and 1 is dual identified as ELL and 504 IEP. When they can, an aide comes to assist with that class. Another class has 25 students. 8 of them are on an IEP, 5 of them are ELL, and 1 of them is dual identified. Another period has 14 students, 4 are on IEPs, 7 are identified as ELL, and 2 are dual identified. See, was that 26? 26,342. And then my last class is a class of 30 with 7 IEP students, 7 ELL students, and 3 students that are dual identified. I don't mind working hard. I grew up on a farm. I've stuck with teaching because I love it. But when I look at my paycheck and I look at the resources I have to work with, it makes it hard. And I don't know what can be done about it, but it's a tough slog. And so I'm hoping as our elected officials that you guys can help make that dream come true of possibly becoming a destination school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think that's all we have for today. Is there anybody else? So thank you very much for providing public comments. I really do appreciate it. The board appreciates it. So I really do thank you guys for coming and showing up. So moving on to item 3, board communication. This is board shout out for Teacher Appreciation Week. On behalf of the board, we all know it's been tough for many, many months, and but Mary wouldn't get anywhere without you. So on behalf of the board, we do want to extend a really heartfelt thanks and sincere appreciation for all that you do for the kids. It is substantial. It makes North Marion, and we do truly appreciate all of the work that you do making that happen. So I'm talking to a crowd who's right here, but next item is student ASB report. May and Vidya here.
And you did it was attendance.
So maybe we can come back to them. May is also Diversity and Equity Inclusion Month, as noted in our thing. In terms of ODE, state education update and SBA updates, do you have anything to add to that, Bill? You're more plugged into SBA than I am, but
I know the OEB rates were just announced publicly, so that should be available on ODE. I have no information. OSBA just had their board meeting, and they're putting together a rural caucus, kind of similar to the color caucus. And that'll be a 1-ish plus year of the committee going through and setting up bylaws and rules and all that kind of stuff for rural. My question at the board meeting was who's going to define
who qualifies?
rural, right? Because I would hope that we qualify as rural, but until the caucus committee comes together, we'll see what that defines.
the
And I'll keep
definition is
everybody
about.
posted on how that goes. And there is the legislative policy committee is starting to spin. So if we have anything for other than, of course, promoting the education budget, I spent a week and also got to spend an hour with the LFO office in Salem and learning about CSL, current service level. That was quite a learning experience, and we can talk about that at the workshop if you ask me to put it on the agenda. I can talk about what CSL is and how it's calculated, because that's kind of the root cause of how money is distributed to every district for the equity equation. And that's pretty much it, other than the elections will determine how the House and the Senate go.
Okay.
In November, so it'll be a quick turn. That's it.
Thanks, Bill. I have just a change in our equity subcommittee. So Christy Buckland will be stepping down as committee or subcommittee chair. Bill Groff will be taking over in her place. Just wanted to make that announcement. that work needs to continue on, and I'm sure Bill will be doing a good job in directing that, so. Moving along to strategic core team member report, and looks like we have you up, Bill.
Well, happy to do that. And no, you're following along. Tried to capture a little bit in photos of a little bit of the work. Sometimes it's hard to just kind of talk about what we're doing and how we're doing, what the processes are, but we'll continue to try to capture in photos as we move forward over the next couple of months. I was thinking about Kendall and her, and her ears, and thinking about Disneyland and thinking about Walt Disney. And I know that you're, as a board, as leaders, you're in some really, really challenging times, and we're all coming through some really big changes kind of in our educational environment, and we're working through them. And there's probably been a lot of times when, as a board or as teachers, as leaders in schools, we've said this is impossible. But I was thinking about Kendall and thinking about strategic planning, which is really about kind of thinking about our dreams and hopes for the future and how we're going to get there. Thinking about Walt Disney's quote that says, when he says, it's kind of fun to do the impossible, because that's what they said about Disney, and yet there it is. And I appreciate through the strategic planning process that as challenging as it is and as adaptive as it is, knowing that the things that we've learned before won't necessarily get us into the future. As board leaders, elected officials, you're charging us with thinking about these changes in the educational environment, and then thinking about Kendall and asking us to think about where we are, where we want to be, and what we need to do in order to get where we want to be. And that's what strategic planning is about. So to continue to talk more and more about that, you can see you have a core planning team. Go ahead and move that forward. And in strategic planning, we're asked to put a strong facilitation. You have Jerry Colonna, an outstanding expert in education and in facilitation, leading your district core planning team. And I won't read every name, but hopefully you recognize the names of a broad group of stakeholders: students and teachers and educational assistants and community members, business leaders, parents. As broad a representation as we can get from our community, and board members as well also. So we have had this team, this core planning team, coming together, for fairly long periods of time, for quite a number of meetings. And you can see in this slide that, the number of sessions that we've had to have a chance to work together, make sense together of the information, the data, the feedback, and the thoughts that go into thinking about creating and drafting the core elements of a strategic plan. And those core elements that this core planning team has been charged to develop are, well, who's driving? Is that Linda or?
Linda.
Linda. Okay, thanks, Linda. In essence, this core planning team is charged with drafting a mission, drafting a vision to support that mission, to draft the core values statements of the school district, and our next session, which is May 17th, to actually draft goals through which we would feel that by accomplishing those goals, we actually could tackle the mission of the school district. We'll also talk a little bit about some parameters that as another part of the core part of strategic planning, the things that we wouldn't do, that we promise we won't do, while we're moving this work forward. So these are the processes that Jerry Colonna brings to this, are really, from expert facilitators handbooks in strategic planning. We've had opportunities to conduct focus groups. You were a part of a focus group, and we've had an opportunity to survey reasonably deeply our community about those things that they would consider strengths of our district, and the things that we do, and clearly those things that many people wish that we would improve. And again, we continue to hear of those things as well. So in essence, by reviewing our data, and our achievement data, our focus group data, all of the information that we're getting through surveys, and then also paying attention to some of the other events and needs and concerns of the school district, Jerry is thoughtfully prompting, our core planning team through the thinking that it would take to create draft these initial elements of the strategic plan. You'll see evidence of, let me stay on that one for just a minute. Thanks. A lot of our data helped us to identify clearly the strengths and weaknesses, of our school district. And most recently, we've then been saying, so given the changes in the environment, and the changes that we might foresee, what are the opportunities that are created by the changes that are occurring in our environment, in our communities, and then what are the threats that we might foresee? And by thinking about the opportunities that are there and the threats that are there, and oftentimes they're the same, we have a chance to kind of set the framework, for where, how we might draft and craft our goals, our initial goal planning for the strategic plan. And what you'll see is lots of opportunity for individuals to think, about those things, for small groups of team members to be able to think together and make sense of things together as we work through that process. And then also the opportunity for the whole group, to share with each other the thinking of the small groups, the thinking of the individual. So ultimately, as we ultimately present these drafts to you, this thinking to you, it's had a lot of stirring and mixing, and a lot of conversation about making some mutual sense of the language and actually the feelings, that go behind, and intentions that go behind the language that will come from those drafts. Okay. So initially, and as you've heard Jerry say, initially, the group has been crafting and working with core value statements. Again, looking very, very deeply at the feedback that's come from the community, as well as the core planning team's own experiences in the community and in the school district. But looking very deeply, and they're really, I have to say, that core planning team is really, really intent on representing, not themselves, though they come as individuals, but really trying to ensure that the core values are representative of the community, of the North Marion region and the community. So our core values will be statements that you'll see this month about the thinking about collective common ground around our core beliefs and how we actually will walk, how we do our work, as we do that work. The mission of the school district actually helps us to define our purpose. The mission, and as the mission statement is drafted, it will answer the question, why do we exist as a school community? Why do we exist? Our mission is to, we exist to. The purpose of the North Marion School District is to, and again, the core planning team is working really hard to make sure that everyone sees themselves in that mission. A vision, not closely related, but a little bit different, gives us a picture. I think about Kendall here, and it's going to answer that question. What do we want, our schools to look like for Kendall? How do we want Kendall to experience school? And in this case, 3 years down the road. The vision right now is for a 3-year strategic planning process. So this is very future focused. it helps to answer the question, what does it look like when we're doing it well? And how do we have a shared enough sense of that, that it actually helps guide our direction and the kinds of goals and actions that we might take to get there. And then parameters, again, I was going to say gutter guards, but I don't know, these days it's more like lane departure things, in your cars and things like that. But, the parameters, how do you keep in, critically in the lane? And sometimes parameters also allow you a little more freedom to set goals. If you have parameters, you don't have to set goals, around those parameters. So these are just some examples, but a parameter might be, we won't start a new initiative unless it's aligned to the mission and the vision in our strategic plan. Or it might say, we will not begin an initiative, unless we have, a system to evaluate its effectiveness. And we'll dump it if it's not working, if it's not getting us the results that we want. We don't want strategic plans just to be adding more things to do. We want the things we do to be strategic. We will not begin an initiative without applying our equity lens to the work before we get started. Those are just some examples of parameters, the promises that we would make about doing this work to kind of might keep us in the lane. And there are other examples as well. So these are elements, and again, I know you've heard that, but just to kind of grab these together and kind of think about our May 25th, when Jerry will be with you in a work session on May 25th, and he'll look through each of these components with the draft language that the core planning team has synthesized, and give you an opportunity to ask questions about it, think about that, consider some of the thinking that went into the language that comes through at that particular point of the presentation. He'll look at what those next steps are. As you've heard, the 17th is the last time the core planning team will be together, and then the work will be handed off to action and implementation teams. So the goals will be set, and then some action and implementation teams will be created to actually consider what would be the critical action steps to accomplish those goals. So that's where we are at this point. And again, that's a little bit of a foreshadow to May 25th, when Jerry is with us, and I know he's looking forward to spending some time with you and giving you a chance to interact with the work of the team. But an outstanding team, and it's really important that you have that good solid team that keeps coming back, and you have that iterativeness to the process to get to the end. So that's our current update. Glenn, if you had anything from a board member standpoint?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you for presenting that.
Mhm.
I think our timeline, as it works now, gets the board involved, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate Jerry, accommodating that work to make that happen too. So, does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. As I'm thinking about this process, one of the benefits that I've seen, in my experience with strategic planning is, as you populate these quadrants of the SWOT analysis, for example, is finding ways to sort of take your strengths to, capitalize on those opportunities that you see and mitigate the threats that are out there. And, as we have heard a lot about, one of the big threats I think facing the district is, the revenue issue and the budget issue. And so I'm just curious how, if at all, the strategic planning group is sort of digging into those issues, and whether, there may be any sort of focus on that as we start thinking about the plans moving forward.
Those have certainly emerged, and we'll have documents for you. Those have certainly emerged as threats. Those have certainly emerged as threats. Kind of the financial environment and kind of the impact on declining enrollment. The cost of living increasing, and those types of things, are threats. And I think in a strategic standpoint, then you begin to think strategically. So maybe kind of thinking with the team, they will get to it in terms of some of the goals and some of those types of things. And that's where the specifics of some of those ideas might come through. But, there is that point where you start to think more strategically about your staff. And in terms of the results that you're trying to accomplish, and whether you have, staff in the right place, to accomplish those goals. And the strategic part is to really think about, like I said, if there are some staff, wouldn't be teachers, but if there are some staff, you know what I mean, that, aren't necessarily helpful towards, helping teachers support kids in accomplishing those goals, then strategic planning is a time to think more strategically about how you staff the system. It's also that opportunity to think about, it's come up, time and time again about student achievement and which kids, our current systems are working for, and which kids may need different types of opportunities and access. And so the type of thinking, kind of interplays with how you staff and how you support kids that may need more time and support than they have right now to fill our equity commitment.
Which is kind of goes into my question that I was asking, is that as we start beginning to put together our district equity metrics that we've been talking about, and we start throwing them down, do you see them as a piece of the equation or a measurement of how well we're doing on top of of the goals we're setting? Which way do you see it?
Yeah, I would think about a parameter like, we won't do anything without, applying our equity lens to it. And we won't do anything without measuring to see whether we're accomplishing what we're doing. So it's kind of in both of those worlds. Parameters help so that you don't have to have a separate goal. You've kind of built a little accountability system in there. And I know Jerry will talk about this on the 25th, but he's very, a lot of the work of that action and implementation team is to help kind of create the metrics, the key performance indicators, that, and with an equity lens, those would be key performance indicators for those groups that may have been underserved at this time. I don't know that, I think that answered your question.
Just make sure also that we have a high diversity of economic students in this district, very wide, and just want to make sure that that's being worked into the system as well as
Absolutely.
the other equity stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great time for us to set up those systems, to disaggregate, our measurement systems so that we are really tracking those things. And ultimately, we'll take a lot of pride in being able to. Strategic planning gives you a chance to close opportunity gaps, with the systems that you create. Opportunity gaps that ultimately create achievement gaps, but it's the opportunity gap that we need to.
That's, I agree.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Thank you,
I know
Bill.
you guys have a long night tonight, so thanks. Yeah.
Moving on our agenda, I had Dan include a note about board self-evaluation. I just wanted to get it on everybody's radar screen. I think what I'd like to do is maybe, if our work session is not too packed coming up here, probably agree to a metric. We've got a couple of options, and I can share those out with you guys. Kind of what fashion we want to do, and kind of set down a timeline. I think we've got some time to work through this, but I think at that work session, if we would set out a timeline when we want to have it completed by, if we want to include it as part of a retreat later down the line, or we can flush those out at the work session. But I just wanted you to be aware that it's on our radar screen coming up. So item number 4, Superintendent District Operations. Do you have?
Just two things.
Okay.
First of all, you received a thank you card. So I want to, from Mrs. Reed, Mrs. Giles, Mrs. Knight, Ms. Boldo, and Deanne McCarthy for the treats that you sent to the school. So I want to share that with you. And the other thing I wanted to do, just for good of the order, is Remind everyone to keep an eye on the COVID metrics. So far, we've been at the week of April 10th, we have 1 case on campus, the 17th, 0. And then the 24th through May 7th, we've had 2 per week. So we're still low. So good job, community, for helping us keep those numbers low, and also be careful because there seems to be an increase. So wear your mask if you want to when you're around other people, and there are other things you can do to be safe. And then lastly, I want to make an announcement that we have Jillian Daly has received a statewide recognition for Award of Merit for Equity in Communications from the Oregon School Public Relations Association. She was the only person to win that award in the Award of Merit category. And I understand that she beat out some very, very large school districts for her equity communication plan. So a little shout out to Jillian for that. And that's it for my regular order.
Thank you, Gigi. Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. If you guys have all had a chance to review that, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion and a second. Second was required. I don't know. Is there any discussion? Sorry. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Bill?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Chair votes for. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving along to item 6. Linda, do you have stuff to add with this beyond what you're going to present later?
Yeah, I'll just mention a little bit of what I summarized, or what I put up on the board in May 22 section for the summary. I just wanted to let you know, last time I said I'm still waiting for estimates, and this is the time of year where they come in, they're higher, then they come in again and they're lower, and then they come in again and you might get a little more. And I want to point out that I wrote here net result of the 3 items above was a gain, and it really was a loss. So I just want to make sure that people know that I do know how to add, but I had put the wrong thing. It's a challenge to put the spreadsheet together each month while we're in negotiations for this school year with the licensed staff, because we're not sure where we'll land. And so I left the same amount in the June adjustment column as what the offer that was on the table from the board of 223, knowing full well that that will probably change, but I don't know where or how much we're going to go. So I didn't make an adjustment, but I want to point out that we need to have a higher ending fund balance if we don't pay this out this year, so that it can go into our contingency, so that when we do settle, we have the money there to pay that out. Because whatever we settle for this year, we'll pay that out again, plus whatever the COLA is for next year. So we need a chunk of money to handle that. Now, if we pay that out this year in the June, before June 30th of 2022, then the ending fund balance I'm projecting will go down. And there's really no way to say where it'll land. So I just want to point that out. I know we have an audience tonight, and I hope that they can understand what we're talking about. And I will come over after we're done with this regular session. I'll run over there with my information for the budget workshop, and we'll talk more then. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Linda. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
Moving on to number 7. Second reading and adoption of OSBA policies is listed. These are ones we covered previously. I don't know, do you have anything to add to? Okay. Honestly, I haven't really gotten a feel whether you guys are ready to approve these and reached out, but
I think there was just a couple questions that were on the table. Do we have the responses to that?
They're in the policies. Yeah, she's added them to the policies, everything that is.
I saw a couple, but I didn't remember all the questions.
One was about the asterisk.
So the asterisk one we cleared up
Okay.
at the last meeting.
Yeah.
That was clear.
There's 2 different kinds of asterisks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. the family leave. Yeah, policy, we cleared that up, it's in the document there. We want to keep the sentence that's in our current policy,
That was, wanted to make sure that.
which is the one that unless the employer proves otherwise, exceptions may be limited. And must be completed and within 12 months of the birth, adoption, or placement of the child, which it's our current practice. So that was the clarification there. I think that was it. Question wise, and then the other was about the double asterisk in the IEP.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have this on, I'm sorry. Thank you. The other was in the IEP and then the double wanting to know.
Yeah, what that meant. But I'm good for a long wind if everybody else is.
Are you ready to make a motion?
All right, I will move that we adopt for second reading, that we accept for a second reading and adoption the following OSBA policies as presented. DH, GBA-AR, GBL, GCBDA / GDBDA, and it's AR1, IGBAF-AR, IGBAG-AR, and IGBB.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion?
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead. This is discussion.
I was on Zoom for our last board meeting, so forgive me if I didn't get the gist of everything, but I know we had some discussion on the talented and gifted program policy. Is that an area that we would address through our strategic plan?
Yes.
As far as making changes to that? I mean, or probably don't want to do it in a policy right now, but how would we address changes to that program?
Well, as the strategic plan is evolving, it's looking at equitable outcomes for all students. And this is a category of all students that would be part of that strategic plan. So this is a rule that requires us now by state law to involve parents in the process of looking at the services for the plan. So we're required to do that, and that fits right in with the strategic plan. That's our goal, to achieve those equitable outcomes and have parents involved, parent engagement. So it dovetails nicely.
Yeah, I would just say that I'm fine with the policy that we have for that, but again, I would hope that would dovetail in with our strategic plan, and that would also be an area that we would, along with many other things, that we would kind of try and focus, but not let it fall off our radar, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it helps when we're using the equity lens to think about how we provide opportunities, how we define gifted, and how we provide opportunities for students to demonstrate their giftedness that may be non-traditional.
So a whole person.
That whole, yes, emotional intelligence, there's all sorts of things that will be included in that conversation.
Yeah. And maybe even changing the title from talented and gifted to something else.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a question also on the same policy. Can you guys hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay. Let me find the language here. We had also talked about, I guess it's the third paragraph where it says that the students' parents can discuss with the district programs. I guess, is this saying that there'll be something like similar to an IEP meeting that we're going to do some sort of follow along? It's not like a one-time only, your student's been identified in this program and then that's it. Can you speak to that a little bit?
They're required to have an annual review of that plan. It's not exactly like an IEP. But every year, as students move from teacher to teacher and grade to grade, a review of their tag plan is part of their education plan for the year. So that practice will continue.
Okay, so that, will that, where, if I were a parent with a student in that, where would I find that, those rules or that guidance that would say what I can expect from that tag annual plan? Like, is that going to be part of, the sentence before or the paragraph before where it says the board is directing the superintendent to develop that? Like, where do I find that part, the annual review part?
The first place that you would recommend that you reach out to, we have a tag coordinator. So the district tag coordinator would be the first person you could reach out to. You could also reach out to the building principal where the child attends. And you could also reach out to the classroom teacher who's working with the child on their tag plan. And I think that's between those three people, you would get excellent information.
So that was helpful. Is that something that a parent could, I mean, I ask this because I don't know anymore. So is that someplace that a parent could find that on the website?
I
Or
believe,
steps a parent could take or guidance for a parent?
yeah, parent information. Let me see what's available for it. We do have that as part of the tag plan, but let me see what's specifically available to address it. And with the new policy, the revised policy, it would be important to update that information for parents for the next school year, so they know what to expect.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? I'm not gonna restate the motion. But I will call or move to a vote and not hear any more discussion. So if you're in favor and I call your name, please say so. Bill?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
And chair votes for. So second reading and adoption. Does that keep us in line? Do you actually need an approval on this, on B, for the out of state? This is not just you actually need an approval on this
Yes,
from the board.
we do.
Okay. So FBLA National Conference is going to be happening in Chicago, June 28th through July 3rd. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Bill, since you're very involved?
I will be there as well, and I was selected also to be a college judge and the K-12 judge or the 6-12 judge. So I'll be there for 7 days, judging 5 of those days. And it's a blast, and I'm glad we're back to in-person conference. And it's just good times.
How many are we sending?
Yeah.
Second,
How many are we sending?
3 students and a chaperone. I could have been, but I'm judging, so I can't be around. So, but we'll have a blast, and we'll definitely I'll take the students out for a night out and seeing Chicago. They'll get to learn a lot more than just being part of that deal. They'll get to see Chicago and such things.
Good. Well, great luck to those kids. That's exciting.
And we also, this year, our state is at the Marriott Marquis at McCormick Center, so they're going to stay at a top-end hotel for a very good price.
Nice. So I would entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll move to approve the travel request for North Marion High School FPL 18.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Bill?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
Heidi? Aye. And chair votes for. And good luck to them. That's exciting.
I want to add just a little
Sure.
thing about the next months. I'm sure we're going to get a request from Sherry Moran for the Skills USA National Competition, because we have people going to compete at the nationals this year for the first time.
Very exciting. Nice. That's great. Okay, we've come to the end of the business meeting and moving to the budget workshop, do we want to take a few minute break? And then to get into place? Okay. So let's.
7:10?
Yeah.
7:10?
Yeah, give ourselves 5 minutes before we give her a chance to walk over, so.
Oh, wow. All of school. This is a freshman. No longer mine. I had 3, but they, I have one that's still, but he's, just here. The young one. It's been a while. It goes back. They were, we had 2 that were 4 years apart, and 2. They were quite spread out. Well, I see that.
Oh, yeah. I tried doing that for a while. Right. Yeah. The elder one.
That's part of the deal. Yeah, that's exciting.
That was a strong. No, I didn't say that. But you I did look for.
Good job.
Both of you. Reality. Yeah. Somebody. Bad.
Yeah.
Both of you
And then all of a sudden, it started coming out my nose, which then created the pressure. I dropped their headache.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
That number is.
Yeah, that worked. And then you give it to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, that's no, to do what you see. Yeah, accomplish that.
And then we'll-
Oh, no question.
They are too smart about it.
Keep our costs. They're better organized, right? Right. The whole thing's
But I'm not sure as much. They're gonna make us use that, or they're gonna guide it to, here's the standard.
There'll be a new where it helps. But we can
Well, okay. And this isn't it. It's all great. That's what, yeah. But very good. Pretty good.
You know.
It's good to meet you.
Is this all on
Yeah.
I
Him to make him pretty.
Just a child.
Okay, well, that's okay. We got to hear, yay.
All right, I guess we ran long on break, so it is 7:18, and I will turn it over to Linda.
Okay. So tonight's a budget workshop. I know I do have at least one budget committee member that's on virtually, and Jay is also a budget committee member of ours. So, and the board is also a budget committee member. I don't know if they can hear me.
Hey, can Linda get a little closer or speak louder? I'm having a hard time hearing online.
Quiet spoken person.
Well, don't ask my children. Okay, can you hear me now, Christy?
That's a lot better. Thanks.
Yeah. So I have about 10 pages of information to go through regarding putting the budget together and how we got to where we're at the moment. And as you all know, our budget meeting is next Monday, where we will elect our committee and then hopefully approve the budget. So I wanted to give you a good idea of where we're at, where we think we're at, and what we know right now. Everything could change. I had 2 new updates yesterday from the state school fund. I'm waiting for one more. That happens this time of year. We get several. I've probably had 6 or 7 since March, and that's to be expected. The ones I received yesterday were not too bad. We only lost about $10,000, so it was really good compared to the ones before. So these are our budget challenges and assumptions. COVID-19, are we past this? We still have our SSL guidelines that are in place and we're following. We don't know what could or might change with that. Our enrollment, yes.
Sorry, can I ask a question about RSSL?
Sure.
When you say those guidelines are in place, they're guidelines or they're requirements?
Ginger can answer that for you.
Requirements until it moves to local decisions. So we still have to have a communications plan. We still have to follow, the volunteer rules are still the same. We still have to have employees that are vaccinated or have received an exception prior to October 19th of 2021. So those rules are still in place. And then what we do at the local level about how we handle the communication. In general, we still have to post things on a weekly basis. We have to notify if there's a positive case on campus. If there's an exposure, we have to send letters to the people that were exposed, including staff. So all of those things are still requirements.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next challenge, as all of you know, because you've heard it from us often, is the declining enrollment at North Marion. Since 15-16, we're down 296 students, and we expect to be down about 63 this year if you just take and move the grade levels over 1. So we would lose about 63 more students as of October 1 of 2022.
Oh,
Students.
I won't interrupt you. So
Sure.
just to remind us, the average, for an average rated student, that is how many dollars?
For per student, around 9,000. There's 3 different numbers in there, so let's just say around 9,000.
Okay,
There's a
just for-
total formula, there's the state school grant formula, and there's one other one. So
Thank you.
that's about what each student equates to. When the superintendent and I were putting together our enrollment projections, we have to do that in December. We just assumed we would have about the same number of students in each grade level, and that's where we came up with our 63. The prior year, this year, we had thought we'd get about half of our students back, and it went the opposite way. So that was not, that was an unexpected hit to our income, although the whole state had declining enrollment. So that helped also because they were divvying up the same amount of money over fewer students. So this is the next section is our funding. This is the second year of a biennium. That's a little easier on most. They split the money up for the state school fund 49, 51%. We will get 51% next year of our allocation. Right now, it's looking like it'll be less than this year because of our declining enrollment. So when we are given our state school fund, they take the higher of prior school year ADMW or the current school year ADMW. Right now, we've been living off of the past, and it looks like we're going to live off the past at least 1 year. That really means that the following year will go down again. So that's
Do you want there to be any questions on the fly, or do you want to?
sure. Yeah, let's do them as we go.
So as we've been looking at the enrollment decline, which we've been talking about for many years, one of the questions that popped in my head was, has it affected our Title I status at all? Positive or negative? Just say how has the drop affected Title
We haven't got very much more funding out of Title
So
I.
it's-
We're still
that's
paying for about 4 FTE out of Title I, maybe 4.5, I
So the
think.
drop
So,
hasn't increased our Title I.
no. I'd have to look that up for sure, Bill, but it's
but
not a ton.
It's not outstanding.
No, no. So,
Linda, this is Emily. I have a question for you if you are taking questions on the fly.
go ahead.
Okay, are you factoring in the Donald development at all in the enrollment numbers?
I spoke with them. They don't expect to have those houses done and occupied for 2 to 3 years. So we wouldn't see anything this October.
Okay, that's interesting because I talked to the lady at Donald a couple weeks ago, the city manager, and they expect to have 50 houses done in October this year. Not all the houses, like I think there's going to be 300 plus, but she expects 50 to be done. They're starting here in the next month, and they should only take 2 to 3 months to be up.
Well, it would be welcome if they had children that were middle-aged when they get occupied. I do know the last time I checked, it's a half a child per household lately is what is coming into new homes. Maybe the Donald area will be different. That would be a welcome thing.
Okay, but so the answer is no, there's nothing factored in there for Donald.
No, we are hoping to just get the same numbers per grade level.
Okay.
If we get
And
more-
what about the payments that each house has to make, when they get their permit? Is that money factored in at all? Because I think it's $2,000 to $3,000 a house.
per square foot for a residential home, it's $1 per square foot. And then the city takes a percentage off of that for their paperwork that they do for us. And that goes into a separate fund. It's called the construction tax fund. And that is held and only can be used for capital assets with values of more than, I can't remember the number, but I think it's $5,000 or $10,000 and more.
Okay. Thank you.
Because we're expecting less funding, we continue to shift a little bit of our FTE into different grant funds. So SIA, High School Success Act, those sorts of things. So we're watching those closely. to see what capacity they do or do not have. Our ending fund balance is very uncertain right now, as I alluded to in the board meeting, with negotiations still going for license for the 21-22 school this current year. You don't know where that's going to land. And when you have an ending fund balance, that moves into as revenue for your next year. So you use that to balance your budget and to make sure you can pay everybody or everything that you need to pay. So that is a critical piece of where we're at, and we don't know where we're going to land with that. So that'll be something that we need to watch. So I moved right into negotiations. I kind of already said what is listed here. I said it earlier tonight, and so we have just started with the classified union for negotiations for the 22-23 year and beyond, and we're hoping to get a multiple year settlement with them. We will have another meeting with them on Thursday of this week. We have budgeted in this budget for 22-23 that I'll present to you on Monday night a 2.5% COLA for all groups. That would include the 5% for license. That is either going to be the half step or whatever we land on. That would roll into next year. So for the licensed staff, it would be from what they're making at the moment, it would be a 7.5% increase or more, depending on where negotiations settles. I do want to point out that all groups have steps, and if you get a step increase, it's between 2% and 5%, depending on what group you're in or where you're at on the salary schedule. So depending on the settlement that we give for each group, all groups, we might not have the capacity for all the FTE and all the other funds. We pay approximately 40 FTE, which is full-time equivalency of staff, from the other funds. So it used to be a lot lower than that, but we're moving up quite a bit. I think it's about 180 plus, maybe 86. I can't remember. I just did that number today, but I did a lot of numbers for general fund, and then about 40 for my other grant funds. So that's a lot that if you give a big increase or you spend more money, that there's only a finite amount in each of those grants. And so it may be that, oh, I thought I could pay for an FTE here, but now I can't because of the costs of everything.
And 40 includes the SIA funding.
SIA, SIA is the biggest one,
Yeah.
Measure 98, and IDEA is quite a few. And those details will come out in the budget document. So I just want to mention again that what I'm saying tonight is what we know right now, and things change pretty rapidly. So hopefully it won't change too much. I am waiting for another estimate for next year, 22-23. They had promised one last week and it didn't come. So, but I did get 2 other ones at 3/17 on Mother's Day. So they did work hard over the weekend, I think. The next document is our official student enrollment. I was going to move this down, but I thought it might be interesting for some of you that haven't done this for very long to see where our numbers have been over the years. And this starts in 1995 and goes through the grade levels and where the enrollments have been by each building. And you can see our highest enrollment is October of 2015 at 1992, and we're projecting to be down to about 1633, which is going back to about where we were sometime between 96 and 97. So you can see with the decline that it makes a difference in what kind of funding Marion does have. Any questions on that page?
Is this level of enrollment higher on the bell curve than what the state is experiencing? This level or this level of drop? Are we losing students at a higher rate than generally across the state?
I think there's 198 districts in the state and about 140 lost enrollment, and the other almost 60 gained enrollment.
Okay.
Overall, the last number I heard was the state was down about 30,000 students, and almost all at the elementary level, which is where we have seen it also.
That's what we've seen.
Yeah,
significant
yeah.
increases.
I haven't looked at other people's percentages, Glenn, but that is the gist of what I've heard through all my information sources.
Sure.
I looked at that a couple months back and it was where we work in the metro.
Mhm.
I didn't look at the state, I looked at metro.
Yeah.
The next page is about a summary of our enrollment and staffing from 15-16. So it just is showing your enrollment and the change and the expected change, and then our staffing and the staff change. And then I put a staff to student ratio. I don't know that if that's helpful at all, but I think it would be interesting if I could get my counterparts to do this work and give me their numbers, but they're all pretty busy and not willing to do that at the moment. So the next page is how we staff the district and how we come to those decisions and what it looks like this year. So we directed our administrators, knowing that funding could be tight and mostly due to declining enrollment, that we should, if you were starting from scratch, if your building was empty and you needed to staff it, who do you need in your building? Who do you absolutely have to have? And you can read here what we said, you know, how many teachers are reasonable, how many classified staff, IAs, secretaries, custodians, all of it. Keep in mind safety of the students, keep in mind equity, and prioritize your staffing by 1 through 4. And so our administrators and directors took that at heart and worked really hard at what they believed they had to have to keep this building, their buildings going and their district going. So after that, then we were able to make a couple of cuts out of what we thought we would fund for next year as far as staff, and went from there. If you look at, when you look at my staffing information on next Monday night, you don't see a whole lot of cut because we had some staff last year that we did not hire. So we expected to have them and we didn't have them. So it doesn't show a whole lot of wiggling. After that, we reviewed those prioritizations, and with the funding from the general fund, the student investment account, the high school success account, and our ESSER funds, we decided on what our staffing level would be. We have tried not to use any of our ESSER funds for staffing, but we are paying for a couple people out of that now. I don't know if it's 1.8 or 2.8, can't remember at the moment, but those, that's a cliff that'll happen. September of 2023 is when ESSER 2 runs out, and September of 2024 is when ESSER 3 runs out. So won't be something you can count on for too long. The next page is the summary of the general fund budget. Like I've said over and over, I don't know where our beginning fund balance, which would be this year's ending fund balance, will land, because it really does depend on where we land with negotiations and other costs. So we'll cross that bridge when it happens. If we are not settled by June 30th or in time to pay by June 30th, our contingency will need to be higher to cover those costs. So where we've held a 5% contingency the last few years, we would have to put more in to cover them. And the final line of this page says we're still waiting on final and updated state school fund amounts for 2021, 21, 22, and 22, 23. I'm only waiting for 22, 23. That's a good thing. The next page is to do with our student investment account, or our SIA account. And you've seen something similar last year. We've updated it, but it shows by the outcome that was put together, how many FTE we're paying out of each section, which is basically most of the cost. We're expecting to get about 1.4, 1.468 right now is what I have in the budget, but because our enrollment declined, they thought we would get less, but they don't have those allocations out yet. So I'm basing it on that. I don't know if that will come true. That's the same with the next page, which is our high school success, measure 98. basing it on a $567,000 allocation. I feel like that one's a little closer to realistic, but they are going to update that one also. You can see the positions we pay out of that. And then there's a few other little expenses that are covered through that one. ESSER page is the next page. This is information some of this was shared in the August board session. And at that time, it was maybe updated through about June something. So this shows by all of the different federal monies we got from ESSER. We got ESSER, the first one wasn't called ESSER 1, but they refer to it that way now. And then we had some CDL gear grant, which basically the governor decided what she was going to give each district for that. And as you can see, if you look at the top section, we've spent all of ESSER and all of the CDL gear. We expect after what I've budgeted for 22-23 to maybe have about 46,000 remaining, but I don't have in these spent to date numbers, our encumbered amounts. And we do have that encumbered. So I expect ESSER 2 to be completely gone. And hopefully to have about $860,000 more or less in ESSER 3, which goes through September of 2024. In the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, the breakout is below. If you just follow the colors of what we spent this money on and what we expect to spend it on, we are expecting to spend some money on the HVAC work, which is second line to the bottom. This is what we've spent to date, but what I've budgeted is quite a bit in both of the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 for that. That work is going slower than expected, but that's because everybody's trying to do something like this, and we're still waiting for our RFP to get out for that work. We are hearing that the feds may extend that 1 year for only capital improvement type items. So our HVAC might get another year out of it if we're going to do that. Yes.
Would technology like hotspots be considered capital improvement?
No.
No, sure.
No. And we have used this money for hotspots every year and will continue next year also. One of the things I want to mention is on ESSER 3, you have to spend 20% of that allocation on unfinished learning. I believe they're calling it now. I think it's had 2 or 3 names. So one of the things we spent it on our very first year was Greg bought $209,000 worth of student devices and Chromebooks. So that was a big chunk of it. We had expected to keep doing that for the next couple of years out of ESSER 3, but Greg was able to get some emergency funding.
ECF, emergency connectivity.
There you go. And even though it says connectivity, they let you buy Chromebooks from that. So he'll keep buying Chromebooks out of that one. We don't need to use this fund for that. So that makes it a little more
We can actually
comfortable.
use the ECF for hotspots as well.
Yeah. And we expect to continue to pay for hotspots. And then you can see down below the notes, we're paying a 0.5 of a psychologist that is employee of the ESD. We expect to do that for next year. And also a 1.0 ELD teacher, a 0.8 nurse, and then all the other things that you see there. So any questions on any of the ESSER monies?
For curriculum and software,
Software, Greg, that one was you. I can't remember what it was.
Canvas.
Canvas, yes. Yeah.
LMS, learning management system.
okay, so it wasn't like one of our adopted curriculums. It was
No,
talking
no,
about
no.
just the
No,
text.
our curriculum has been being paid out of the SIA fund lately, the English, and then what was last year, math. Yeah. So, and that, that's where, this coming year, what did we have the year before? Social studies, I think. So that's we've been paying that out of the SIA grant funds.
state still supporting Canvas with a statewide contract to keep the rates lower?
Yes and no. Last year, we were subsidized by Willamette ESD, and that subsidization is going away.
So that's not, so we lost that.
So then I put in a page here that just kind of gives you a summary, like I was mentioning, we pay about 40 FTE out of different funds. So these are our funds and how many FTE and what category we pay them out, just for a general idea of where we're at. And I would say 3 years ago, it was half or less this amount. So, well, maybe not half, because food service has always been paid up.
So a third of them is actually the food service contract.
Yes, which is
So
standard.
a third of it is
Yeah.
just over.
I think we used to have 12 or
Yeah, but
13, but yes.
It's coming from.
Yeah.
federal.
Yeah.
The standard top.
And then you can see general fund right now, I'm expecting that we'll pay 188.65 FTE out of it.
Actually 14.
Yeah, this year it's 14. I think it used to be 13, but we got a person. So our next steps are to complete the budget document and have it ready. I'm supposed to have it ready by 7 a.m. Friday morning and have it on the website by then. So then I will get it out to all of you right after that. Our first budget meeting is Monday, the 16th, and I need a quorum. So I'm hoping I get 8 of you here. And then if we need it, we would have a second budget meeting on May 19th, which is the Thursday, if we don't approve it on Monday. We will adopt the budget June 13th, 16th, 13th, I think it's the 13th. So there could be some changes between now and then. If we were to settle with either union, I would make some changes to what you would have approved on next Monday. Any questions for me?
Let me get where TOSA's, where did TOSA's come in at from the fund?
They're the licensed staff at TOSA.
But they're coming from which fund?
I think we have any TOSA next year. We don't have any
Okay,
TOSA.
never.
Academic coaches, we have our district leadership.
We do have some academic coaches, yeah, and one of them split out of SIA and general fund, and I couldn't tell you. So, no. Any questions from?
So will you be getting, or will it be available online, the budget to look at before the
Yeah.
meeting?
Yes, it'll be available online, and I will send it out to the budget committee, which includes you guys on Friday, I expect, unless I get it done really early Thursday, which I don't expect. We have a negotiations on Thursday, so I doubt that will happen. But I'll get it out first thing Friday morning, or try to. And Bill loves to have a paper copy, so I plan to make paper, but no binders. I'm not going to spend the money on binders. Because we will be in person again, it will be nice to have a paper copy where you can flip the pages and ask your questions and put your little tags on it if that's where your question is. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Linda.
You're
Look
welcome.
forward to it.
Yeah.
With that, it is 7:46. I will adjourn us unless there's something else. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Becky.